So basically, every time that I talk about how police should deal with any sort of rioter or somebody being violent towards them, everybody that is against this always tries to shift the conversation about protesting, as if protesting includes violence, as if protesting includes destroying property and throwing rocks at people and, throwing fireworks at them. That's never what it has been, and that's not what it should be, and that's never what it will be. And the fact is that whenever people do this, they intentionally try to misunderstand an argument, and you have to understand why. The reason why they're misunderstanding it is because they don't want to understand it, because they can't argue against the actual argument. They can only argue against the straw man of the argument, because any reasonable person would come to the very obvious conclusion that, yes, if somebody is initiating deadly force against you, you should be able to defend yourself with deadly force. And so because a police officer is a person, I think that if you throw a rock at a police officer should be able to respond with deadly force by shooting you. That's my logic, that's my reasoning, and that's also Florida's logic and Florida's reasoning. But you also have to understand that there is an entire state in our country that has the exact same viewpoint on this than I do. Don't try to act like I'm some extreme radical or some crazy person when there are states with millions of people in it that agree with this. And I think that most people agree with this too at a very fundamental level. But also whenever they're actually being violent, well, they think that's just freedom of speech. And it's like this weird inversion of logic that you see happen everywhere, where you have some people that are talking about freedom of speech, but then they're being violent. They think that violence is speech, and they also think that speech is violence. It's like a complete inversion of logic, reality, rationality, and priorities. But whenever you look at it from the perspective of these people are only saying these things because these things are beneficial to them and their worldview or their point of view, then everything else about it makes perfect sense, because it's not actually about any sort of principle. It's not about any logic. It's not about being rational. It's about creating and, having a conclusion and then reverse engineering a justification in order to make it to where the conclusion that you got to is okay. I think that these people are really... It's so obviously dishonest, but the point is that these people intentionally misrepresent what's being said all the time, and they do so because they can't argue against the actual fact and what's actually being said. They can only argue against a straw man of it.
And then turn them into slaves.